Hey everyone, welcome to this explainer. Okay, so if you've spent any time in a language classroom, you know this struggle. It's that classic, super frustrating tension, right? Why is it that our students can memorize grammar rules perfectly for a quiz on Tuesday, but then completely butcher them in an actual conversation on Wednesday? Well, today we're diving into a really fantastic academic paper from the RELC Journal by Jack C. Richards and Randi Reppen that hits the nail on the head and directly answers this exact question.
So here's our roadmap for today's explainer. First, knowledge versus ability. Second, contextualizing texts and needs. Third, guiding discovery and noticing. Fourth, meaningful practice and output. And finally, number 5, integrating skills and technology.
All right, let's jump right into part 1, knowledge versus ability.
Now, to get started, we really need to look at this foundational shift in how we teach. Traditionally, we've been all about grammatical knowledge. You know the drill, literally. It's sentence-focused, it isolates specific rules, uses drill and practice, and basically expects students to succeed in a total vacuum. But what we actually need to be building is grammatical ability. This is a whole different ballgame. It means shifting our focus away from the isolated sentence and zooming out to the complete text. It's all about treating grammar as a communicative resource that totally depends on social context.
Actually, there's a quote from Cullen cited in our source that sums this up perfectly. The grammatical choice that speakers or writers make are not made in a vacuum, but in a context of language use. They are thus text-based, not sentence-level choices. I mean, think about it. Grammatical choices, like whether to use active or passive voice, or saying can instead of would, they just don't happen in a void. They depend entirely on what you're trying to communicate. You don't just pick the passive voice because you memorized the rule. You choose it because the specific text you're creating absolutely demands it.
Moving on to part 2, contextualizing texts and needs. So I want you to stop and ask yourself something. What do your learners actually need to do with the language? Like really do with it? Are they trying to master expository writing for a university class? Are they just trying to hold their own in casual conversation at a retail job? Or maybe they need to write factual recounts for a corporate business report. You absolutely have to identify these needs right off the bat, because every single text type requires a completely different grammatical toolkit.
Let's say your students need to write a recount. Now, an old-school textbook might just say, okay, today we're learning the past tense. But a text-based approach looks at the whole shebang. A recount definitely needs the past tense, sure, but it also desperately needs time adverbs like when, next, or as soon as to link the events together. It needs a variety of action verbs. It needs personal pronouns if it's a personal story, or a passive voice if it's a factual report. You see, you aren't just teaching isolated, boring rules. You're handing them the exact grammatical resources they need to build that specific text.
And you know, this contextual approach also really shines a light on the huge difference between written and spoken English. Take the words perhaps and maybe. Literally the exact same meaning, right? But maybe is a grammatical resource we use constantly in spoken, everyday conversation. Perhaps, on the other hand, belongs in formal, written contexts. Spoken language also relies super heavily on non-clausal units, like fragments or quick short responses, while written English is all about those complete clausal units. So teaching grammar effectively, it means teaching students which resource to pull out of their toolkit for which context.
Okay, that brings us to part 3, guiding discovery and noticing.
I absolutely love this data. This table comes from the Corpus of Contemporary American English, or COCA for short. If you teach novice writers, you've probably noticed they use phrases like find out or put up with in their academic essays all the time. And why wouldn't they? They hear them constantly in everyday conversation. But as the data shows, these multi-word verbs have really high spoken frequency and very low written frequency. On the flip side, single-word verbs like discover or tolerate are heavily preferred in academic prose. When you let students dig into a corpus and find this out for themselves, it creates this massive aha moment. It perfectly bridges vocabulary, grammar, and context in one go.
Another really powerful trick for guiding discovery is something called textual enhancement. Basically, it's helping students notice the grammar in authentic texts. It's a super actionable procedure. You pick a specific grammar point in a text and you highlight it, maybe underline it, bold it, or use color coding. But pay close attention to those last 2 points. You want to keep the highlighted forms limited so you don't overwhelm them, and most importantly, skip the confusing metalinguistic explanations. Seriously, avoid them. Just let the students focus on the highlighted text and discover the pattern and the meaning all on their own.
All right, section 4, meaningful practice and output.
Now here's a question every single one of us wrestles with. How on earth should we handle student errors? You know, those repetitive, frustrating mistakes that pop up again and again? Well, instead of just covering their paper in red ink, our source material suggests using those exact error patterns to drive your instruction.
Let's look at a classic example, mixing up result in and result of. One teacher noticed this exact pattern and just created a guided noticing activity specifically for it. Result in is used when result is acting as a verb, like heavy rain can result in flooding. But result of is used when it's a noun. The result of heavy rain is flooding. By taking actual errors straight from your students' writing, presenting them side by side like this, and having them correct their own work, you're bridging vocabulary and grammar in a way that is highly relevant to them.
But here's the thing. If we want to fix these errors long-term, we have to guide our students through different types of practice. The problem is, way too many classrooms get totally stuck on that first type, mechanical practice. That's your classic, boring drill where students are just filling in the blanks and they don't even need to understand the sentence to get it right. We've got to push them toward meaningful practice, where they have some guardrails but actually have to make meaningful choices. And ultimately, the holy grail is communicative practice. That's real information exchange in an authentic context, like writing an actual complaint letter to a company or doing a real-world role play.
To truly make new grammar stick, students need what researchers call stretched output. Basically, this means giving them tasks that are just demanding enough that they literally have to expand and restructure their grammatical system to get their meaning across. Our source mentions a brilliant activity for this, called a dictogloss. Here's how it works. The teacher reads a short text at normal speed, students jot down keywords, and then they work in groups to try and reconstruct the original text. Or you could give pairs of students different pictures of a story and have them piece the narrative together. By doing this, they naturally bump into linguistic problems that they have to solve together, forcing them to focus on form just to convey their meaning.
And finally, part 5, integrating skills and technology. So here is your complete step-by-step blueprint for a text-based writing lesson. Step 1, build the context. Discuss the real-world purpose of the text type. Step 2, model and deconstruct an example text together, looking at how it's organized and its grammar. Step 3, joint construction. The teacher and the students literally build a similar text together. Step 4, independent construction. The training wheels come off and they write their own text. And Step 5, linking to related texts. Notice how grammar isn't some separate, isolated worksheet here? It's completely woven into every single phase of the writing process.
And honestly, technology just makes this easier and way more authentic than ever before. Like we talked about earlier, you can access online corpora like Coca or MyCase to analyze real language use. And instead of students just writing an essay for an audience of one, you, the teacher, have them write online movie reviews for a real audience. Let me tell you, knowing strangers will read their work is a massive motivator for grammatical accuracy. You can also have them compare the audio of a newscast to the written version of the exact same story. Using collaborative software totally transforms what used to be a lonely, tedious grammar assignment into a highly engaging, team-based mission.
Ultimately, what our source material from the RELC journal is reminding us today is that grammar isn't just one flat thing. It is fundamentally a multidimensional aspect of language knowledge and ability. It's never just an end in itself. It's a means to an end. It's the essential communicative glue that allows us to build texts and meaningfully interact with the world around us.
So I want to leave you with this final thought. As you sit down to plan your next lesson, ask yourself, are your students just memorizing isolated rules to pass a Tuesday quiz, or are you truly equipping them with the communicative glue they need to actually thrive in the real world? Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer, and I hope this sparks some really incredible text-based strategies in your own classroom.